As someone that has been involved in science, technology, engineering, and math for several years, I used to think of the humanities subjects as relatively unimportant. To me, science, technology, engineering, and math were the keys to finding medicines to cure diseases and improve society, while the humanities was a terrible justification for spending millions of dollars that could have been donations for solving societal issues like world hunger, but were instead lost in corporate drains like we saw in cats. But it turns out that the humanities and the sciences aren't really black and white prospects. Most of you may already know that the abbreviation PhD is short for Philosophiae Doctor in Latin, which translates to Doctor of Philosophy. Despite the literal translation, many of you likely know that you can get a PhD in subjects other than philosophy. Subjects like biology or chemistry or math or physics. Getting a PhD also gives you a new title, doctor. So in addition to being the kind of doctor that works in a hospital, you can also be a doctor in astronomy or some other field. But have you ever stopped to think about why we refer to a doctor in a subject as a PhD? Why say someone has a PhD in economics, which is basically saying they are a doctor of philosophy in economics, when we could just say they are a doctor in economics? After some debate, several professors from reputable universities around the world have agreed that the idea of a PhD first originated during the Middle Ages in the legal Islamic medieval education system. Before the idea was adopted by European universities and was called a PhD, it was known as an ijazah. Basically, an ijazah was a license that allowed the holder to share knowledge, which at the time was usually religious Islamic knowledge. And in most cases, to earn an ijazah in the Middle Ages, you would have to study law for about 14 years, and then followed by an oral examination. After getting certified, you were deemed capable of making the right decisions when interpreting religious Islamic rules. For example, after earning an ijazah, you could determine whether drinking naturally occurring wine breaks the Islamic rule that condemns alcohol, or whether killing a murderer is morally correct according to Islamic code, so that kind of thing. It's easy to see what fields you could go into after getting an ijazah. An Islamic scholar named Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, often credited as the father of algebra, was an educated Islamic follower who was trying to follow the Islamic rule, which said that he must pray facing the direction of the city Mecca. So, what he did to figure out the exact direction to face the city while he was praying, he decided to make he made several trigonometric calculations and produced the first ever table of tangent values, and he even released a paper on groundbreaking spherical astronomy concepts. Now, to understand why Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi was able to determine the direction he must face to pray towards Mecca, why we use the phrase PhD to refer to a certificate of expertise, and why humanities is more related to STEM than I ever thought it was, I'm going to tell you about a conversation I had with my physics teacher not too long ago. At the time, I was telling him about a podcast I really enjoyed, which basically rated facets of the human-centered planet on a 5-star scale, when at one point he asked me, "What would you rate physics on a scale of 5 stars?" Although this was about halfway through the year, and I had learned many different formulas and concepts, I didn't really know what physics was. I mean, I knew what motion was, but physics also included concepts that didn't even involve motion. It included objects that didn't move. So if I rated the concept of motion 5 stars, that wouldn't really be the same thing as rating physics 5 stars. Even if I could come up with a definition of physics, I would still have to express how well it achieves its goal in order to rate it on a scale of 5 stars. The other problem was that I didn't know the goal or purpose of physics. I knew that physics was used in other subjects, like in chemistry, to calculate energy, and that's kind of why I ended up telling my teacher that I would rate physics 4.5 stars, only because it helped advance concepts in other subjects, like chemistry. My teacher then responded by explaining that he believed that physics is the fundamental concept for every subject. For example, for every chemical reaction, a concept of physics is applied to reactants to produce products. The laws of physics govern everything in the known universe, and nothing that exists could exist without physics. The goal then of physics as a science is to understand these laws. It was from that conversation that I had understood how the humanities are intertwined with the sciences. Every field has a definition for what it is applied to. As my teacher pointed out, the world from his perspectives, which was a physics perspective, was that it was a matter that was constrained by rules. To make advancements in physics, you would just have to make advancements in understanding what these rules were and how these rules applied. And this is the physics definition of the universe, according to my teacher. This is the philosophy of physics. Similarly, Al-Khwarizmi followed the philosophy of Islam to define his understanding of spherical astronomy. For example, the Quran, the holy book of Islam, actually lays the groundwork for spherical philosophy by explicitly saying that the earth is round, a concept which was largely unknown at the time. The Quran also explains many fundamental concepts that build the philosophy for other fields that shape the ideas of ijazah holders other than Al-Khwarizmi, other ijazah holders that were involved in the fields of biology and chemistry. Al-Khwarizmi followed the philosophy of Islam to make scientific advancements. Likewise, there are philosophies for all kinds of subjects. Apart from physics, like chemistry, which define the universe as molecules that can interact amongst each other. Referring to someone as having a PhD in a field really means that they possess an understanding of the philosophy of the application from that field's perspective, and that they understand what they must accomplish to reach the goal of that field, according to the associated philosophy of that field. Hence, to understand a field, we need the humanities. The humanities not only provides the purpose of a field, but also defines the perspective that a field takes. I'd like to end with a quote by Carl Sagan, who once said that science is more than a body of knowledge. It is a way of thinking. I'd like to add on that the sciences explain how to think, but it is the humanities that tell us what to think about and why.